Hard rock has always been known as a pretty serious business. Struggling into leather trousers is enough to make anyone moody, to be fair, so you can hardly blame the bands behind it, but I digress. While there have been silly offshoots like hair metal, hard rock music always seems to deal with very serious matters. Across the years, there have been many albums by artists that have had joke tracks hidden in their back catalogue to break up the monotony of being very cool. Whether or not they did actually make you laugh, these songs gave the band more character rather than just typical hard rock masterminds. So, let's take a look at some of the best, shall we? I am the hilarious comedian Ash from WhatCulture Music, and these are the 10 funniest tracks in hard rock. 10. Dear Doctor, The Rolling Stones. Across the Rolling Stones' stellar Beggar's Banquet record, the band were taking bold new leaps as to just how much emotion could be brought out of the blues. Though most of the record dealt with seedier sides of life, from Satan to street urchins, Dear Doctor turns tragedy into comedy in a marriage falling out. Taking place on the day of the wedding, the protagonist is shaking in his boots as he is getting extremely cold feet about his decision. While he keeps crying to his doctor for more meds, his mother is having none of it and demands he get in his suit immediately. At the 11th hour though, things turn a corner. Mick Jagger's hilarious vocal affectation imitates a note from the man's fiancée, as she explains that she has eloped with his cousin and ran out on the wedding, much to his elation and thankful blood pressure. Even on an album marred with dangerous characters, the Stones still had a penchant for more light-hearted material. 9. Drive My Car, The Beatles. On first listen, there doesn't really seem to be anything that amusing in this song, with Paul McCartney telling a typical story of a girl wanting to be famous. The wannabe starlet has stars in her eyes and is looking for a lover who will chauffeur her around her more extravagant endeavours. While the singer ensures he can support her, the girl tells him that he will be much more satisfied working for her. After much tension, the man accepts the job only to get the blunt news from his lover/employer. Turns out that this girl with grand ambitions is also down on her luck and doesn't even have a car for her mate to drive around in. In her attempt to appease her jilted chauffeur-to-be, she remarks, "I found a driver and that's a start." Being one part social satire and one part sexy rock song, Drive My Car is the sound of the Beatles toying with their songwriting to create something that entertains on many levels. 8. I'm the Man, Anthrax. Among thrash's greatest, Anthrax mixes together punk and metal with a New York attitude, but their love of hip-hop broke out to glorious effect on I'm the Man. Released just as a standalone single, this track flexes their rap muscles, with endless amounts of puns that break into off-kilter chorus. Are these rhymes as indelible and essential to the genre as, say, Public Enemy or Run DMC? Hell no. However, the endless amount of charm and chemistry between these three musicians makes this song extremely entertaining. The kicker to the story is that the song was actually pretty successful, with the single cut going gold. After a few hard years slogging it out on the road, an in-studio goof led to this novelty track gaining more airplay than anything else from the band at the time. While the song is thoroughly entertaining, it also opened the door for metal and rap to commingle, with Anthrax diving down the rabbit hole later when they teamed up with Public Enemy. 7. Happy Holidays, You Bastard, Blink-182. With over 30 years of punk rock experience under their belt, Blink-182 don't necessarily have a reputation as one of the most mature bands of the bunch, but that is much to their favour. Coming in the middle of hits like First Date and The Rock Show, Happy Holidays, You Bastard is one of the most off-the-wall joke tunes that has ever been put on a pop-punk record. While it initially starts off as a typical pop-punk rager, Mark Hoppus's lyrics are anything but serious, as he first talks about the trials and tribulations of not having wrapped presents on Christmas Eve. We then switch holidays to Labor Day, where Mark's grandfather eats an inordinate amount of hot dogs and then defecates in his pants in the middle of the party. Is there a moral behind these things? Just that Mark is never talking to his listener again unless he can get some carnal reciprocation from their parents. This track will certainly not leave you smarter than you were before, but it sure as hell will leave you with a snide grin on your face. 6. DIGSY'S Dinner, OASIS. Towards the tail end of Definitely Maybe, DIGSY'S Dinner comes on with an almost jaunty-sounding rhythmic structure as it plods along. Instead of dealing with the wild times of rock and roll or wondering about the greater meaning of life, Noel just wrote this infectious tune about the exciting tales of lasagna. The title character DIGSY was a friend of Noel's from the band Smaller, with a rather eccentric personality that gave Noel the impression of opening a bag of monkeys. While there are a few choice lines to be found on here, like "these could be the best days of our lives," the whole track is a bit of a farce by Gallagher's own admission. Over the next 15 years of Oasis being together, Liam Gallagher refused to sing it because he thought it was too stupid for live performance. On the other hand, this light-hearted romp gives but a peek into the turbulent lives of the Mancunian giants. 5. They're Red Hot. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Red Hot Chili Peppers' masterpiece of an album, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, is littered with funk rock classics like Give It Away, whilst offset by other introspective tracks like Under the Bridge. After an hour of funk-fueled mayhem, you'd expect the album to end on a truly epic note. On first listen, the record sounds like it's going to, with the 8-minute-long Sir Psycho Sexy going through a descending chord progression that seems to be leading to the end of the world. Once you're about to finish though, the band does a quick piss take by covering Robert Johnson's They're Red Hot in their trademark funk style. While it's already a bit unorthodox to set a funk beat to a blues tune, the band double down on the weirdness by increasing the BPM to near musical incoherence. Sure, the album may not be finishing up as you once imagined, but this last blast of energy gives a more tongue-in-cheek conclusion to the Peppers' funk odyssey. 4. Dominated Love Slave. Green Day. Green Day have always been known as a bunch of funny punk rock musicians, but the band's comedic potential took a quantum leap once they added drummer Trey Cool to their ranks. Though Cool's drumming duties are absolutely stellar, his featured spot on Dominated Love Slave certainly doesn't disappoint, if only for shock value. Sticking to just basic chords, Cool wrote an entire song for the band to perform that details a man's fixation with S&M and bondage antics. Instead of taking the typical punk approach, the song is done with a country backbeat. With the track's mock southern accent and vocal affectations, the song turns the act of passionate clubbings into an auditory bit of slapstick comedy. While Cool describes in great detail every way the protagonist is gonna get hurt, you can't help but cheerily nod along. From being slapped with a chain to having skin contact with a belt sander, there is something endearing about this total pop-punk goof. 3. Iron Gland. Alice in Chains. For most of Alice in Chains' work, none of the band's songs would be considered a laughing matter. When the band released their drug-addled masterwork, Dirt, the members seemed to be at their lowest point as they sulked through the perils of their addiction. Ironically, one of the scariest tracks on the record came from nothing more than a studio in-joke though. While the sessions were incredibly productive, Jerry Cantrell kept playing this riff that was too atonal to fit in any of the band's songs. Cantrell still liked the little fragment and continued to play it, much to the annoyance of the other band members. After the other members of the group couldn't tolerate it any longer, Cantrell offered a compromise by telling them that he would record it for the album and then never play it again. Even if the song itself may not be the most comical to listen to, the story behind its disturbed piece of grunge rock is one of the few shining lights of happiness to come from this era of Alice in Chains. 2. 665/667. Soundgarden. On the band's punkish-leaning first record, Ultra Mega OK, two mysterious interlude tracks appear with the ominous numbers of 665 and 667. Both of the songs have backwards singing on them, leading some to believe that the band planted subliminal messages in their music. However, the members were quick to point out that each of these songs were nothing but good-spirited trolling. The title of these tracks stem from the idea that if the devil's number 666 has demonic connotations, the numbers directly next to it must be pretty powerful as well. While there are indeed backwards vocals on the track, the subject matter is not that of Satan, but instead praises to Santa. Although many people would be quick to call heresy on the grunge rockers, what they're missing is one of the heaviest musical praises to the King of Christmas. 1. EIER von Satan. Tool. Tool has garnered a reputation for being one of the more intellectual bands in metal. Throughout albums like Lateralus, Tool would create music that would take your mind to far-out places whilst pummeling you with powerful hard rock. In the middle of the band's 90s thrasher, Anima, the band placed a complicated track of terror in Die Eier von Satan. Across the track's short run length, the vocals seem to be spoken through a bullhorn whilst an industrial-sounding backing track plays in the background. Once the curtain is pulled though, this track is actually kind of awesome in its own unique way. Once you run the German lyrics of the track through a translator, all of this violent shouting amounts to what is essentially a recipe for how to make hash brownies. No deeper meaning, no ulterior motives, just a simple recipe for baked goods. Out of all the fantastic hard rock acts of the 90s, leave it to Tool to make a track that brings horrific imagery and dramatic tension to culinary activities. And that's our list. What other funny tracks belong up here? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I've been Ash and this has been WhatCulture Music. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and come back again soon for some more lovely musical content. Thanks for watching.